Apple just threw years of AI development in the bin, and nobody's talking about why. The company that built its entire brand on controlling every chip, every line of code, every user experience inside its walled garden just announced that its brand new AI architecture is powered by Google Gemini, not Apple Intelligence, not some homegrown neural engine cooked up in Cupertino Labs, Google's models. On your iPhone, your Mac, your iPad. MacRumors broke the story yesterday, and here's the part that shocked the industry. Apple didn't bury this in a press release. The company quietly revealed it through a technical architecture white paper, almost like they knew this wouldn't land well. Now, Apple has spent over $20 billion in the last 5 years building its own AI capabilities, on-device processing, private machine learning, the whole stack. So when the world's most vertically integrated company suddenly says, actually, we're going to use Google's stuff instead, it's not just a tech decision. It's a strategic surrender. But here's what most coverage is getting wrong. This isn't weakness. It's a calculated bet that the AI game has changed faster than even Apple can move. And if Apple's giving up the fight to build its own, what does that tell you about where AI is actually heading? That's exactly what we are unpacking in this video. To understand why Apple just made this move, you've got to rewind about 2 years. Back in 2024, Apple announced Apple Intelligence, this big, ambitious roadmap to put serious AI capabilities directly on your device. No cloud calls, no sending your data to a server, everything local, private, encrypted. It was a perfect play to Apple's strengths. The company controls the hardware, the operating system, and the silicon. Tim Cook talked about this being the future of AI, on-device models that respect user privacy while delivering instant, powerful features. But here's the problem Apple ran into. Building cutting-edge language models is mind-bogglingly expensive and complex. You need massive datasets, enormous computing power to train the models, and constant iteration. OpenAI's ChatGPT cost hundreds of millions to develop. Google's Gemini. Estimates put it north of $2 billion just for the training runs. Meanwhile, Google had already invested those resources. Gemini was already trained, already competitive, already battle-tested by millions of users. Apple looked at the landscape in early 2026 and realized they had 2 choices: keep burning cash trying to catch up, or partner with someone who'd already done the hard work. Apple chose the pragmatic path. It's a stunning reversal from the privacy-first narrative, but it's also a clear-eyed look at what actually works. So how does this actually work? Apple's new architecture uses what's called a hybrid orchestration model. Think of it like a conductor managing an orchestra. Your iPhone's got multiple instruments playing at once, and something needs to decide which one to use when. On device, you've got lightweight AI models that handle quick tasks, predictive text, photo classification, local processing. These still run on your chip, still stay private. But when you need something heavier, real language understanding, complex reasoning, creative tasks, the system routes that to Gemini's backend servers. The clever bit is the gateway. Apple built a new layer that handles the handoff seamlessly. Your iPhone figures out, can I handle this locally in 50 milliseconds? If yes, it does. If no, it encrypts your request, sends it to Google's infrastructure, gets the response back, decrypts it, and shows you the result, all in about 200 milliseconds, fast enough that you won't notice. Now here's where it gets complicated. Apple gets to say it's still private because the company's added encryption layers and data minimization protocols. Google doesn't see your raw request, it sees a processed, tokenized version. It's not perfect privacy, but it's better than most cloud AI. The MacRumors technical breakdown showed that 47% of queries now route through Gemini, up from 0% just weeks ago. That number's going to climb as users encounter more complex tasks. So what does this mean when you actually use your iPhone? Let's walk through 3 concrete scenarios, because this change affects your daily experience in real ways. Scenario 1, writing an email. You open Mail, you're composing something to your boss, and you tap the AI writing assistant. You want it to rewrite a paragraph to sound more professional. On the old system, this would process on device, slower, limited, but completely private. Now, your device sends that request to Gemini. 3 seconds later, you get back 5 rewrite options. The quality jump is staggering. Gemini's trained on vastly more language data than Apple's local model. Scenario 2, photo search. You ask Siri, show me photos from the beach last summer. Previously, your iPhone would recognize basic patterns, water, sand, sky. It would miss nuance. Now with Gemini, it understands context. Beach last summer pulls pictures from that specific trip, not just any photo with blue in it. The accuracy has jumped about 34% according to beta testing. Scenario 3, coding help. You're a developer using Apple's Xcode. You ask the IDE, write me a function that validates email addresses. Under the old system, limited suggestions. Now you're getting Gemini-powered code completions that actually understand what you're trying to build. Apple dev accounts report that suggestion accuracy has tripled. But here's the twist nobody expected. These improvements come at a cost. This is where the contradiction gets really interesting. Apple's entire brand promise for the last decade has been privacy first, data control, security. Your data stays on your device. That's been the pillar of the company's marketing and its product positioning against Google. Google's entire business model is data harvesting. The company makes 81% of its revenue from advertising, which means understanding users, tracking behavior, building profiles. Google's not evil necessarily, but the company's incentives are fundamentally misaligned with privacy. And now Apple's sending 47% of its AI queries to Google's servers. Let's think about what that means. Your emails, your photos, your browsing patterns, your location context, all of that data gets routed through Google's infrastructure at least periodically. Apple says the data's encrypted and Google can't see it. And technically, Apple's being truthful. Google gets the encrypted payload, not the plain text. But Google still gets metadata. It knows you're a user, it knows your request pattern, it knows your device type, your carrier, your general location. Over months and years, that aggregate data builds a profile. Compare this to what Apple promised in 2024. All AI processing stays on your device. Complete privacy. Zero server communication. The reality is now halfway to Google's model. It's a massive strategic change. One analyst compared it to Microsoft admitting that Windows privacy features don't work. It shattered the entire brand promise. But here's the thing about this change that changes everything. This Apple-Google partnership signals a fundamental change in how AI is going to get deployed over the next 5 years, and the implications ripple way beyond these two companies. First, the independence race just ended. For the last 3 years, every major tech company was trying to build its own frontier AI models. Microsoft invested in OpenAI, Meta's investing in Llama, China's pushing QN and DeepSeek. Apple was supposed to be the fourth pillar, building proprietary AI that nobody else could access or replicate. But building world-class AI at scale costs hundreds of millions of dollars. You need research teams, training infrastructure, constant iteration. Apple looked at that cost curve and said it doesn't make sense anymore. If Google's already done the work and the company can license access, why burn resources duplicating it? That's going to accelerate consolidation in the AI space. We're probably going to see a future where there's 3, maybe 4 AI engine providers: Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, maybe Microsoft, and everyone else is a client licensing their APIs. That's a totally different market structure than the open, competitive landscape everyone expected. Second, privacy just became a luxury feature, not a baseline. If Apple, the company that literally branded itself on privacy, is now routing AI queries to Google, smaller companies aren't even going to try. They'll just use cloud APIs from day one. Privacy technology goes from table stakes to premium tier, accessible only to people willing to pay extra or accept performance hits. Third, regulatory risk just skyrocketed. Governments are waking up to AI's power. The European Union's AI Act. Regulations in the United Kingdom, new laws in South Korea. Apple sending user data through Google's servers creates massive new regulatory exposure. Apple just agreed to make itself subject to Google's data practices and regulatory vulnerabilities. That's a calculated risk, but if regulators crack down on how Google handles AI training data, Apple comes down with them. Here's what you actually need to do with this information, because this affects your device, your data, and your choices. First, if you're on iOS 18.1 or later, you can control exactly how much data routes to Google. Go into Settings, scroll to Privacy, then AI Services. There's a toggle for Gemini integration. You can disable it completely if you want to stay on purely local processing. It'll be slower, less capable, but completely local. Most people won't notice the performance hit for basic tasks. Second, if privacy matters to you, you've got options. Graphene OS on a Pixel phone gives you better control over what data leaves the device, though it comes with trade-offs in app compatibility. There's also the OnePlus platform with privacy customizations, but here's the honest truth. There's no major consumer smartphone ecosystem that's both private and AI capable anymore. Apple just admitted it. Everyone else already knew it. Third, check what data you're comfortable with Google seeing. Assume that anything you do through Apple Intelligence from here on out has some Google exposure. It's not total, the encryption is real, but it's not zero either. If you're someone who avoids Google entirely for privacy reasons, you're going to need to adjust that stance or switch platforms. And finally, this is a moment to think about what AI features you actually need versus want. Apple's going to push Gemini-powered suggestions everywhere. Most of them make your life marginally easier. Some of them are genuinely valuable. Be intentional about which ones you enable, because each one is a data stream. Here's what this Apple-Google partnership tells us about where technology's actually heading and what to watch for over the next 18 months. 1. Expect more partnerships like this. Amazon's probably going to license Anthropic or Google. Microsoft might license OpenAI's models to smaller device makers. The age of everyone builds their own AI is over. We are moving to an API economy where a handful of massive AI platforms license to everyone else. 2. Privacy is now a geopolitical issue. The United States and Europe are going to watch this deal closely. The idea that American user data flows through Google to train Google's models, that's going to trigger regulatory scrutiny. We might see rules requiring data localization or restricting how AI training data can flow between companies. 3. Device makers who can't build AI will struggle. Apple could negotiate this because Apple's huge and has leverage. Smaller phone makers, they'll be forced into either licensing expensive models or building inferior local AI. That means the market concentrates even more around Apple, Google, Samsung, the players with enough scale to negotiate with AI labs. Here's the core takeaway. Apple just told you that building independent AI capability at world-class quality is basically impossible for any company except the absolute largest. That's not weakness, that's clarity. It's how the market actually works. The fight over AI isn't going to be won by whoever builds the best model. It's going to be won by whoever controls the infrastructure that runs those models and the device ecosystem they attach to. Apple picked its side. Google benefits, and if you use either platform, you're now part of that infrastructure, whether you realized it or not. Subscribe and follow for daily AI news as this story develops and the real implications unfold.